Welcome to what I promise will be a highly strategic masterclass explainer. Listen, if your ultimate goal is to absolutely maximize your marks for the Cambridge AS and A-Level Accounting Syllabus 9706, you are exactly where you need to be. I'm your master coach for today, and I've spent years analyzing exactly where students drop easy marks and exactly what examiners are desperately looking for. Today, we are putting a laser focus on manufacturing accounts, specifically zeroing in on the critical, often misunderstood distinction between direct and indirect expenses. But look, we aren't just going to sit here reading boring textbook definitions. No way. We are looking at this strictly through the lens of the principal examiner. We're going to dissect complex questions, we're going to master your time allocation, and we're going to deploy critical thinking strategies that will literally elevate your responses to that top-tier A-star level. So get your notebooks ready because we are diving deep. Okay, let's dive straight into the deep end by confronting a direct question pulled straight from recent principal examiner reports. Why do students find evaluating evidence and drawing conclusions so incredibly hard? Seriously, it's a question that plagues even the most obsessively prepared candidates. The harsh truth? Many students walk into that exam hall armed with a massive arsenal of memorized facts, but when they sit down, they completely struggle to weave those facts into the logical, structured reasoning that examiners actually award marks for. To fix this, we need to talk about command word anatomy. There is a massive hidden difference between the command word analyze and the command word evaluate. Analyze means breaking down the facts, showing how the gears work, but evaluate? That means judging how well the machine actually runs. Same goes for explain versus to what extent. Explain is just giving a reason. To what extent demands that you weigh up two opposing sides of a complex, high-tariff 9 to 15 mark prompt and make a final, justified judgment. Our mission today is to demystify these tough assessment objectives, breaking down exactly what examiners want to see on your paper. As I highlight these command words on the digital board today, I want you to start seeing the hidden constraints of the prompt. So here is our clear roadmap, our examiner's playbook, if you will. We'll start with core principles, move into the procedural framework, tackle critical evaluation, and finally, hit the top examiner warnings. Section 1, the manufacturing account core and understanding the assessment objectives. Let's get into it. Now, to really understand this difference between analytical depth and superficial breadth, I want to tell you about two of my top scholars. Let's call them Alex and Sam. I had them in a collaborative digital study suite recently, working on the exact same high-tariff question. Now, Alex is highly technical. The kid excels at formulas, facts, and structure, but he seriously struggles with open-ended evaluation. On the other hand, Sam is this incredibly creative thinker. Sam is brilliant at forming arguments and seeing the big picture, but really struggles with structural precision and strict timing. So I watched them debate how to lay out their essay. Alex pushed hard for a purely factual approach, just listing out every single thing he knew about factory overheads. That right there is superficial breadth. It covers a lot of ground, but it's only hitting assessment objective 1, or AO1, which is pure knowledge. Sam argued for a broader conceptual perspective, wanting to talk about business strategy, but Sam wasn't linking it back to the hard numbers, missing assessment objective 2, which is application. I had to jump in and show them both what analytical depth really looks like. It's about combining their strengths to hit AO3 evaluation. Analytical depth means taking one specific indirect expense, like factory supervisor salaries, and logically explaining exactly why it must be apportioned indirectly, and how misclassifying it as a direct wage would wildly distort the prime cost calculation. The examiner rewards the depth of your logic, not the length of your list. While Alex and Sam were debating, they stumbled onto a secret weapon that absolutely separates top grades from the rest: cross-topic connections. The theoretical architecture of this subject rests on precise definitions and causal relationships. Integrating your manufacturing account answers with other syllabus areas is a proven high-score trigger. For example, Alex pointed out the math behind valuing direct raw materials, and Sam suddenly realized, wait, if we mess up the raw materials calculation here, it completely changes the overall inventory valuation on the statement of financial position. Exactly. Or consider how different depreciation methods affect indirect overheads. When Alex and Sam started combining the rigid technical rules with the broader financial implications, they unlocked the top-tier marking bands. Candidates who can zoom out and clearly demonstrate how a specific manufacturing decision sends a ripple effect through the broader financial statements are the ones who walk away with top marks. Section 2, the procedural framework steps. This is where we turn theory into concrete action.
Okay, before we solve the absolute hardest part of this procedural framework, let's just hit pause for a quick second. If you are serious about securing that A-star and you want a continuous stream of these insider examiner strategies, you need to subscribe to the channel right now. It's Ace the Exam's IGCSE O and A levels at handle Ace the Exam _IGCSE. Hit that subscribe button and make sure you click the notification bell and enable all notifications so you never ever miss a weekly Cambridge breakthrough strategy. I want you crushing these exams. Okay, back to the framework. Understanding the theory is honestly only half the battle. You need a systematic, bulletproof way to process dense exam information. Look at Alex and Sam drafting their model response on screen. They use this exact sequence. Step 1, identify key elements. Scan the data and instantly categorize costs into direct materials, direct labor, and indirect factory overheads. Step 2, apply relevant principles, like your work-in-progress adjustments. Step 3, execute your analysis with crystal clear working. Step 4, verify your results. Step 5, present in the appropriate formal format. But here's the thing. When Alex and Sam were actively drafting paragraph by paragraph, they hit a massive roadblock. They lost track of time and couldn't figure out how to transition from their calculation into their written evaluation. They completely froze.
When they froze, I actually used the picture-in-picture feature to pause their session, step in, and explain the cognitive strategy they needed to use to get unstuck. I told them, listen, you are panicking over getting the final number perfectly right, but you are completely forgetting the method mark strategy. This is absolutely vital, guys. Earning method marks means you get points for demonstrating the correct analytical process and showing clear working, even if your final calculation is wrong. It's your ultimate insurance policy. Examiners are literally instructed to award marks for the correct process. If you incorrectly calculate an indirect expense apportionment, but you clearly show the logical steps that got you there, you salvage the vast majority of the points. A wrong answer with no working gets a big fat 0. So Alex and Sam and I rewrote their flawed section out loud. Instead of just jumping to a final overhead figure, we wrote out, total indirect costs equal rent apportioned by floor area plus depreciation apportioned by machine hours, and showed the basic fractions. Suddenly, a mediocre, risky answer transformed into a flawless, full-mark response because the examiner could see inside their brains. Furthermore, applying these procedural steps practically doesn't just score you points on an exam, it actually develops the exact professional skills expected in real-world accounting. The Cambridge syllabus expects you to apply proper formats and use rigorous terminology. You shouldn't just say total direct costs. You need to say prime cost. You need to systematically evaluate performance using the right vocabulary. When you format your manufacturing account flawlessly with clean lines and correct headings, you are subconsciously signaling professional competence to the examiner. You are telling them, I am an accountant. I know what I'm doing. Section 3, Mastering Critical Evaluation. Let's learn how to think exactly like a top candidate. All right, it's time for an immersive workshop segment. Look directly at the screen with me. This is visual question 1, our data and source analysis. I want you to imagine a complex factory overhead chart right here on the interactive smartboard. And a 60-second visual countdown timer has just started. Tick, tock. How do you evaluate it? This is where you prove you can not only build an account, but actually interpret what it means in the real world. Examiners actively hunt for these specific evaluative thinking traits. First, you must question given assumptions. Is the current method of absorbing indirect overheads based on labor hours actually accurate for the specific, highly automated factory? Maybe not. Second, consider different perspectives. Think about the factory manager who is laser-focused on cutting direct labor costs versus the financial director who is looking at total overall profitability. Third, justify your decisions with solid, undeniable evidence from the data provided. And finally, identify limitations. Point out that the data might be historical and ignores current inflation. If you can systematically hit these 4 bullet points, while that 60-second timer runs down, you are demonstrating the absolute gold standard of Cambridge evaluation. To make sure you hit those evaluation points every single time, you need to apply a macro strategy to every long-form question you face. I call it the problem-solving cycle. Deconstruct, solve, and evaluate. First, deconstruct the messy, confusing narrative into logical, bite-sized components. Next, solve it systematically using your procedural framework and showing all your working. Finally, evaluate it by checking your direct and indirect cost totals for reasonableness and making justified, evidence-based recommendations. Follow this cycle religiously, and your answers will naturally, organically hit all the required assessment objectives without you even having to sweat it. Section 4. The top 3 examiner warnings. These are direct, unfiltered insights from the principal reports. Okay, back to our visual workshop. This is visual question number 2, spot the flaw.
I am pulling up a poorly written, completely flawed student answer on the board right now. I want you to look at it and find the 3 critical errors before I highlight them. Ready? Okay, let's dissect the traps set by examiners because this is where students consistently hemorrhage accessible marks year after year. Mistake number 1, forgetting proper format. Look at the board. This student forgot to distinctly separate prime cost from factory overheads. It's just a jumbled list. You lose marks for that instantly. Mistake number 2, failing to double-check presentation conventions. The rules in 9706 are strict. If you don't show the transfer of production costs to the income statement correctly, you get penalized. And mistake number 3, this is the biggest one, providing answers that are not specific to the given context. Look at this student's evaluation paragraph. It's just generic accounting theory. The prompt was about a custom furniture manufacturer. To get the marks, your evaluation absolutely must talk about direct materials like specific types of wood, direct labor constraints like skilled carpenters, and machinery depreciation specific to saws and sanders. Context is literally everything.
I need you to pause and let this quote sink in. This is the single most important examiner alert you can carry into the exam hall. Students lose marks by not showing working. Even if your final answer is wrong, method marks can save you. Do not do the math in your head. Do not do it secretly on the side of your calculator. Write down every single step. By the end of our session, both Alex and Sam had massive personal breakthroughs with this. Alex realized that his technical skills were useless if the examiner couldn't follow his logic trail. And Sam realized that all his great creative arguments fell flat without the structural safety net of showing his calculations. So let's synthesize this entire masterclass into 3 core, highly memorable pillars. First, the 3-step question scan, always identifying command words and context first. Second, the paragraph balance formula, mixing factual knowledge with deep evaluation. And third, the last 5 minutes review checklist, which we'll talk about in a second. To help you execute under the immense pressure of the exam clock, here is a quick, high-yield study tactic I always teach. Create your own memory hack. Build a mnemonic using the first letters of key terms for direct and indirect expenses. Honestly, whether it's a completely silly phrase or just a simple, punchy acronym, having a mental shortcut to instantly recall how to classify things like royalties, carriage inwards on raw materials, or factory supervisor salaries is going to save you precious minutes. It ensures flawless recall when your brain is tired and the clock is ticking. Which brings us to our final, provocative question. Have you built your final review checklist to secure your method marks and verify your formats before the clock runs out? Don't just learn the theory we talked about today. You have to practice the strategy. Listen to me. Crushing Cambridge exams requires consistent, relentless strategy. You cannot do this alone. So here is your final call to action. I want you to hit that subscribe button right now for Ace the Exam's IGCSE O&A levels at handle acetheexam_IGCSE. Turn on that notification bell so you get all our future exam hacks. And right now, I want you to scroll down and leave a comment with your exact target grade. Put it out there into the universe. Pull a past paper today. Apply the deconstruct, solve, evaluate cycle. Write out every single step of your working and lock in these strategies. Keep pushing your analytical depth, keep fighting for those method marks, and I will see you in the next explainer.